Here equanimity means even-mindedness, based on the clear insight that nothing whatsoever is worth being attached to. Sab Dhamma la Abhinavasya, this is right understanding, the very basis of the practice of Dhamma. It is the instrument by which equanimity may be maintained towards all things and events, and is itself a direct supporter of samadhi. To develop equanimity, the following techniques are recommended. A. Equanimity towards all living beings. Cultivate even-mindedness towards all living creatures, men and animals. B. Equanimity towards all conditioned things, sakra. Sakra here means all non-living things, together. A. And B. Cover all the things we tend to become attached to and involved in. First we think, what is this? Whose is this? And then, this is better, that is worse, and so on. These feelings lead to attachment and culminate in clinging based on the ideas of me and mine. And such attachments and involvements give rise to endless problems and difficulties. C. Avoid people who have or represent strong attachment. D. Associate only with people who are detached and who represent detachment, especially ones free of all attachment. E. Form the habit of being naturally detached. This can be done by reflecting on the virtues of a life of detachment, being completely satisfied with detachment, extolling its merits, and constantly urging and encouraging others to do the same. These are the important hints for forming this habit. Now to sum up the interrelationships of the above three factors of enlightenment, tranquility produces calm of body and mind. When body and mind are calm, there is concentration, and when there is even-mindedness with regard to that state of concentration, that is equanimity. This is how these three factors of enlightenment are to be integrated. Once this integration has been effectively achieved, the mind cannot possibly wander or become agitated.
By the power of tranquility, the formerly restless mind is pacified. Practicing this, each time the mind becomes restless, is what is meant by subduing the mind when it needs to be subdued. 6. Encouraging the mind, when it needs to be encouraged, when the mind needs neither to be stimulated nor to be subdued. The meditator is advised to encourage it, that is, to uplift it towards whichever quality is most appropriate at that time. There are two aspects to this: threatening the mind so that it really dreads unwholesome, dangerous things, and inspiring it to be interested in wholesome things. The things that the mind ought to dread include the various types of suffering, which must be clearly understood. In the text, 8 of these are listed. They are: the suffering inherent in 1. Birth, 2. Aging, 3. Illness, 4. Death, 5. The 4 kinds of downfall, apaya, 6. Past involvement in sasra, the cycle of becoming, 7. Involvement in sasra in the future, which is clearly foreseen, and 8. The struggle for the necessities of life. Included in the last of these is the search for food, for eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, which goes on without end, and in which every individual is involved continuously, no matter what he is or has. Constant reflection and clear awareness of these 8 types of suffering is the means of frightening the mind into a dread of. Immersion in this unceasing struggle, it will arouse confidence, determination, and satisfaction in the meditator's efforts to be free from these conditions. Interesting the mind in higher things may be achieved by inspiring it to rejoice in the virtues of people and ideals, in particular the virtues of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, but it must be genuine inspiration. Here is a man, the Buddha, completely free from suffering. This is truly the path, the Dhamma, leading to freedom from suffering. These are exemplary people, the Sangha, who have attained to freedom from suffering.
Each of the 3 gems ensures success in the practice of threatening and inspiring the mind, if carried out correctly, serves to coax the mind along if it happens to have lapsed into a state of stagnation. 7. Watching over the mind when it needs to be watched over, when the mind is neither slack nor restless, but working smoothly. It is said to have attained a suitable preparatory stability. What the meditator must then do is watch over and maintain this state until he has achieved the desired goal, which here means full concentration. The important point is that should maintain this favorable state by watching over it, calmly and uniformly. The meditator has to collect the mind and gather in the jhana factors smoothly and continuously. This is what is to be understood by watching over the mind. This practice is explained by the analogy of the skillful charioteer. Having his horse under control, the charioteer can regulate its speed. On a smooth road, he can make the horse pull the chariot along steadily by merely sitting still, whip in hand, and keeping good watch. In this way he reaches his destination without incident. Likewise the meditator, by merely watching over and maintaining the mind's stability, successfully gathers the jhana factors. The course of tranquility which has reached this stage of full concentration follows certain laws. Once this point has been reached and these natural laws come into effect, the whole process becomes self-sustaining. The secret in controlling the mind lies in not interfering. To interfere is to create problems where none existed. Most important and desirable in the present situation is adequate mindfulness and clear comprehension. Sati Sampajana. In the task of watching over the mind and maintaining its stability, mindfulness, Sati Samajaga, is highly desirable. 8. Avoiding unstable people. 3 types of person come under this heading. 1. The person unfamiliar with, or opposed to renunciation. Renunciation here means the mental state free from sensuality. A person unfamiliar with renunciation is one whose mind has never been free from sensuality. Never free from sensual desires and indulgence in sensual objects. In other words, he is a person who has never had peace from the disturbing demands of sensuality, and so does not know the taste of renunciation. A person opposed to renunciation is one who knowingly allows himself to be absorbed in sensuality. If anyone speaks of a state opposite to his, he doesn't like it, even though he has never had any experience of it. He just assumes it to be something undesirable. Such a person is unstable and without peace of mind. He intentionally avoids and habitually veers away from the life of peace. 2. The busy person and the irresolute person. The person who has many things to do can never devote himself to any one of those things. As a result, he never succeeds in carrying any single thing through to completion. This is the jack of all trades, master of none. That he likes to busy himself with so many things shows that he is of unstable mind. The irresolute person is quick to change his ideas and interests. Before he can carry any single thing through to completion, he changes his mind and switches to something else. He will never succeed in anything. He is the rolling stone that gathers no moss. 3. The person with agitated, wandering mind. This is the person with no definite objectives or goals. His mind lacks discipline. These 3 types of people are unstable and undependable. The meditator is advised to shun them while practicing. He should regard them as germs, carriers of a disease which may prove highly contagious. Anyone who aims at attaining full concentration should always keep well away from such types. To practice in this way will at least keep the meditator on the path to full concentration.
9. Associating with people of stable mind. This is merely the opposite of 8, so need not be discussed at length. Essentially, what the meditator has to do is try to adopt the good habits of such people and make them his own. That such a process is possible is well known. Another benefit of associating with people of stable mind is the opportunity of inquiring about matters relevant to the practice of full concentration. 10. Adapting the mind to the situation. This means maneuvering the mind in accordance with its various states and activities while firmly concentrated, taking into account both timing and intensity. All this is not easy to deal with in detail. What it amounts to is that the meditator must be sufficiently adaptable to adjust his mind appropriately to whatever situation arises on the way to full concentration. Here the expression adjust appropriately may be clarified with the help of an analogy. For a person just learning to ride a bicycle, it is important to keep the body in the proper position. To maintain his balance, the cyclist must shift his weight at just the right moments. If he fails to do so, he will not be able to cycle smoothly. If he does not maneuver the handlebars as required, or if he fails to distribute his weight properly, he will wobble all over the place. He must adjust his center of gravity continually. Likewise, the mind must be steered, balanced, and steadied if full concentration is to be achieved. Right timing and the maintaining of the happy medium between too early and too late is illustrated by the analogy of the bee. Every morning the bee flies out in search of nectar. If it arrives at the flowers too early, it is still dark and the flowers have not yet opened. Also, there are many kinds of danger it may run into. If it arrives there too late, it will get nothing, since the other bees will have already collected the lot. The happy medium between too strong and too gentle is illustrated by the following analogy.
There used to be a game in which a letter or symbol had to be drawn with a knife blade on the petal of a lotus floating in a pond without piercing the petal. A skillful man could, as if by magic, draw the letter with a single movement of the knife, without piercing the petal at all. In this game, if the stroke was too gentle, no mark would appear, and if too strong, the petal would be cut. The cut had to be just right, not too strong and not too gentle, only then would the feat be accomplished. As for maintaining the mean between too slow and too fast, consider the analogy of the man ordered to collect a 30 or 40 foot long strand of a certain thick and sticky kind of spider web. If he works too quickly, the strand is sure to break, and if he is too slow, it will not come loose from the cobweb. To illustrate the mean between too much and too little, there is the analogy of the man in a yacht. The yachtsman must let put just the right amount of sail, depending on the wind. If the wind is strong and he lets out too much sail, his boat will capsize, and if the wind is only gentle and he lets out too little sail, the boat will not move at all. For the mean between too daring and too timid, there is the analogy of pouring oil from a large vessel into a bottle with a very narrow neck. If one is too daring, the oil will spill everywhere, and if one is too timid in tipping the vessel of oil, nothing will come out at all. For the mean between too tense and too relaxed, there is the analogy of holding a small sparrow in the hand. If one is too tense and clenches the fist too tightly, the bird will be crushed to death. And if one is too relaxed and holds the fist too loosely, the bird will escape. Or, consider the analogy of flying a kite or tuning a musical instrument. Think of how the string of a lute is kept properly adjusted. All these analogies clearly illustrate how to adapt the mind to the situation.
In the early stages of the practice leading to full concentration, it is necessary to incline the mind towards the jhana factors, gradually gathering them in by keeping to the middle, the golden mean between the different pairs of extremes. When everything is done well along these lines, it becomes possible for the mind to incline towards and reach full concentration. For anyone whose temperament is naturally suited to such practice, success will come easily and rapidly. But for someone lacking in willpower and determination, many difficulties will arise. Such a person must make a great effort for a long time. It may even take him his entire lifetime to attain to this delicate stage of the practice. A really determined meditator will not even worry about life or death, solely concentrating on the goal of his practice. These 10 skillful means are collectively called anapanasati. All 10 have the same objective. They are all means of speeding the mind along the way to apana or full concentration. To practice them is to cultivate and consolidate good mental habits and faculties. And anapanasati leads not only to successful tranquility meditation, it benefits the entire Dhamma practice. Even in its final stage of insight meditation, if anapanasati is performed well at the stage of guarding the sign and gathering in the jhana factors, the result will be full concentration and the attainment of absorption. Chapter 9, Attainment of Absorption. To understand the steps of the practice during the attainment of jhana, we must go back to the point at which the counterpart sign appears. Just before the appearance of the counterpart sign, patibhavanamita, the acquired image, adhanamita, becomes very clear. The mind becomes very calm and the meditator feels contentment and satisfaction in the practice. Concentration comes so easily that it is hardly necessary to make any effort at all. These are all indications that the counterpart sign is about to appear.